The online piano and the online violin tutor. Now this is kind of a follow-on video from the 8 ways to tune your violin video that I've done. I've put a link to that somewhere here coming up now. This is just to show you how to tune your violin. So choose one of the methods of tuning your violin from the video. So there was lots of things you could use: a phone app, a chromatic whistle tuner, tuning fork, piano, tuning it by ear, anything like that. So let's assuming that I've heard my A and I know how that goes. All I can do now is you can use fine tuners or the adjusters that you have on the violin. I've only got one because this is a very expensive violin, and generally they tend not to have the fine tuners on them. But you can, if your violin that you have doesn't have any, it's a good idea to have them, because you don't really want to be playing around with the pegs too much, especially if it is a cheaper violin and a student quality violin. The pegs tend not to be sort of made in a way that you can use the pegs, so you end up kind of the pegs aren't such great quality. You probably haven't got great quality strings, so you're sort of in risk of sort of snapping the strings and that kind of thing. So always use the fine tuners to start with. But basically, if you're using a fine tuner, if you're finding that your notes, let me just see if I can play around with or move the E string a little bit. So this is, because I've only got a fine tuner on my E, I'm just going to demonstrate on the E string. So this is an E that I need from the piano. So I know I need that. So I know that's very much flat. So if your string is flat, you want to take it to the right. So if you need to sharpen it, take it to the right. So that would be clockwise. If your violin is too sharp and you need to flatten it, you need to take it anti-clockwise. So you need to take it to the left. So you can just, and then twist the tuner with your right hand whilst you're holding the violin with your left hand. That's very time consuming to do that, because you've got to twist, try it, twist, try it. What you can do is hold the violin, either if you've got a shoulder rest or not, whatever, hold the violin, bring your left hand round. You can always hold it up with the sort of elbow of your violin. Bring your left hand round like this. This is an art in itself. I'd perhaps just try it maybe over the bed so you don't kind of drop the violin into 1,000 pieces on the floor or something. And then if you bow and play at the same time, so I'm just playing around with it a little bit there, just so you can hear, me moving the fine tuner, and you can hear me bowing at the same time. So if you can do that, if you can bow at the same time as moving the adjuster, sometimes that's easier, because then you haven't got to keep sort of bowing and fiddling about, bowing and tuning and bowing and tuning. You can sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can do it much quicker, and as you're bowing, you'll almost be able to hear that point of perfection where the note is perfectly in tune, and when it matches the one on the piano or whatever it is that you're using, or if you've got one of those clip-on tuners or anything like that, you'll be able to stop perfectly when it matches that, rather than having to sort of backwards and forwards. So you could do the rest with all the fine tuners, or you can use the pegs. Now when you use the pegs, you need to be very, very careful when using the pegs. I'm very lucky in my violin that it doesn't actually go too much out of tune. It's very rare that I sort of need to tune it up. If anything, it will be sort of the E string that tends to go out of tune more. So I will just use the pegs very gently, just to sort of twist and tune them. Sometimes if they're a little bit too stiff, then I'll sort of take it down and take it down on my knee and sort of do it with both hands. But you need to do it very, 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 very gently when you're using the pegs, and you almost want to always tune up to the note. You never want to tune down to the note. You always want to sort of tune up, because it's much easier to hear when the note is flat and you're tuning up to it, as opposed to sort of being up and tuning down to it. And you always want to do it really slow. You never want to yank the bow round because you'll put too much pressure on the string and you'll just snap the string. So slowly, little but often, very, very slowly, because you can always, if it's too much, you can always take it down. Never just yank the peg round. Very, very slowly. As slowly as you hear it tuning with the fine tuners is similar to what you want to be doing with the pegs. Now, if my violin is ever so slightly out of tune, a little trick that I do use is to just very gently push at the string at the top. So I'm sort of pushing into it. So if I find that my string is ever so slightly flat, and I haven't got any fine tuners on here and I can't be bothered to use the pegs, or it's so minutely flat that using the peg is just never gonna get there, I can just push. All I'm doing is just sort of pumping into the string here, and it just slightly stretches the string enough just to sharpen it a little bit. With the reverse of that, if my string is ever so slightly sharp, because it probably is now because I've been pushing into it, all I can do is just sort of gently tug on the string. And when I say gently tug, I mean very gently tug on the string, no yoinking or yanking or anything like that. So just gently pulling the string to the side, and it will just sort of loosen it off a little bit. That's personally what I do anyway. I've never had a problem doing that, but I am, when I say I'm very careful, I'm very gentle, I am very careful and I am very gentle. And I don't tend to do it on the E string. I tend to sort of do it on the G, the D and the A. And that little trick works for me. It's just sometimes if you're in the middle of an orchestra rehearsal as well, or you're in the middle of a concert and you're in an orchestra and you just want to tweak it a little bit, you can always, and you can't get your hand round for the tuner and you obviously can't stop and adjust the pegs, you can just sort of tweak it up here by just sort of gently pumping into the top part here, sort of pushing it down, or just gently sort of pulling the string a little bit, and that will sort of loosen it. If you think that the string is getting tighter, it's getting higher. If you're loosening the string, it gets lower. But very, very gentle with it. Do not tug. I cannot stress that enough. Otherwise, you'll end up just pulling everything apart. So please be very, very gentle when you do that. That's just a little disclaimer there, almost like don't try it at home kind of thing. So don't tug it too much at home. When I'm tuning the violin, if you're not sort of using one of those electronic tuners or anything like that, I'll tune my A string up from either a tuning fork or a piano or something like that, and then I tend to tune the A string and the D string together. So I'll make sure that's fine, and then so I'm listening for a perfect fifth there. Okay, and sometimes what I listen to as well is the after sound, the kind of the sustained ringing sound that you get. I don't know if that's coming out on camera or not, whether the camera's picking that up, but after my bow has come off the string and I'm not playing anymore, you still get that sort of ringing for a few seconds afterwards. That's very good to do. It's because it's almost like a quieter sound, and you're sort of hearing the resonating sound, and that can often tell you whether it's the violin is too sharp or too flat there. So that's not in tune at the moment, but I'm not going to tune it on here, otherwise it'll make the video too long. But after I've done that, then after I'm happy with the D string, then I'll tune the D, and I'll attempt to tune the G string, and I'll play in the G and the D together, because when you're hearing open fifths, they're much easier. It's much easier to hear an open fifth and hear the harmony of an open fifth. I don't know. It's very difficult to put into words, but there is something that almost sounds perfect about them when they're in tune. It's very, very, very difficult to explain. They are perfect fifths anyway, but there's just something about them that's perfect sounding to the ear from a tuning aspect. And again, I'll listen to the... So it slightly changes when my bow is off the string, and maybe some of you can't hear that, but this G string's not quite in tune for me. So I would now go away and tune that if I was playing or doing some practicing now or whatever. So I listen to the open strings together, plus I'll listen for the sound after that, and then I'll listen to the open string and listen to the sound of it coming off afterwards, and then I'd finally do the same with the E string, and then See, that's too sharp now. I am just playing about with it so you can hear it. It almost sounds, when you're actually taking it down, and you can be doing that at the same time as bowing, you can almost hear it to the point where it doesn't sound like you're playing two strings anymore. It sounds like you're playing only one string. I know that's very bizarre because I'm playing open fifths. I'm playing fifths apart on the open strings, and they are two very kind of different, almost clashy notes, but it's almost like they don't clash anymore, and it sounds perfect. I think perhaps that's what I'm trying to convey. It's just, everything is just perfect about it, but it almost sounds as one, oddly enough. so that's what I'm listening for. So that's how I tune my violin. I hope that helps you. I can't stress enough, but if you're using the pegs and you want to sort of gently tweak, gently would be the key to that. Otherwise you're just going to rip all your strings off and damage everything and all this kind of stuff, and you don't want to be doing any of that. So you must be very gently and do it very, very, very minute bits at a time. Some students, some kid students that I've taught, their parents are trying to tune their violin, they've gone yank with the peg, and of course the string has snapped and they've had to go and buy an E string and had to wait for me to put it on for them. So very, very gently and very small, minute movements with the pegs and with the fine tuners at the bottom here. So I hope that's helped you. I hope it's been informative. Do check out my other video on 8 different ways, yes, 8 different ways I have found for you to tune your violin, and I'll catch you all next time.